Hello students, welcome to my class. And as you know that we are doing Kamladas's poems. The first one is My Grandmother's House. I have already given you the introduction of Kamaladas and also the summary of this poem. So today we'll be doing the explanation, line by line explanation of the poem. And this poem was published by Kamala Das in 1965 in her collection Summer in Calcutta. And in this poem, Kamala Das walks down the memory lane. She remembers the happy times which she had at her grandmother's house. And she thinks about the past in a very fond manner. So now we will read this poem. Now let's study the poem. Now here there is My Grandmother's House. There is a house now far away where once I received love. That woman died. The house withdrew into silence. Snakes moved among the books I was then too young to read, and my blood turned cold like the moon. How often I think of going there to peer through the blind eyes of windows or just listen to the frozen air, or in wild despair pick an armful of darkness to bring it here to lie behind my bedroom door like a brooding dog. You cannot believe, darling, can you, that I lived in such a house and was proud and loved. I who have lost my way and beg now at strangers' doors to receive love, at least in small change. Now this poem is written by Kamala Das, and she actually, in this poem, she remembers her ancestral house in which she lived in Malabar. So she is remembering this house, and because she has had very fond memories, very happy memories of that house, and this was the house which gave her abundant love, unconditional love, selfless love, and she is the one who craves for love. So he says, there is a house now far away where once I received love. Now she is living in Calcutta. At that time, after marriage, she went to Calcutta where her husband was working. And there she says that there was a house now far away. That is, now she's staying away from this house. She's not staying in this house where once I received love. This was the house where I received lots and lots of love, abundant love, unstinted love. That woman died. That woman over here means the grandmother. Now she's talking about this house in which the Nalpats lived. That is the ancestral house, and that house was Nalpat house. So that when the grandmother died, that woman died, the house withdrew into silence. That after the death of the grandmother, there was nobody who lived in that house, and that house fell into silence. Snakes moved among the books. I was then too young to read. He says, now moving of the snakes. Now snakes are symbol. The moving of the snakes means that this house was left deserted. यानी इस घर का कोई देख रेख करने वाला नहीं था, and it was all closed up and deserted. जब बहुत दिनों तक कोई मकान या कोई चीज़ बंद रहती है तो उसमें कीड़े मकोड़े सांप बिच्छू सभी पैदा हो जाते हैं. So this moving of snakes also shows the neglect of the house. That is, nobody is looking after that house, and that house is neglected. So, and he's saying that because as we know that she had her father and her mother was also a writer, a poetess, and so she was brought up in a house in which there were lots of books, and the environment was very literary. So there was a library, that is, there were lots of books, and she says that the snakes moved among books. I was then too young to read. There were lots and lots of books, but she was too young to read all of the books because she actually got married at a very early age of 15 years. And 15 years is a very small young girl. And she got married, and she said that she could not read all the books which were lying in the house. And now the snakes are crawling uh, amongst these books. And my blood turned cold like the moon. That is, she said that when I think of that house and when I think of that image, when it comes to me, that the snakes are crawling among the books and all, so I become very cold. This is that this actually brings her very coldness in her heart. That this such a beautiful house where she lived as a young girl, where she got her the house which was source of love and affection and inspiration. So after that death, this house fell into silence. Previously, when she used to live in that house was full of joy and happiness. But now that house has turned cold. Like the moon. This is a simile. Cold like the moon. How often I think of going there to peer through blind eyes of windows or just listen to the frozen air. She says that many times I have thought of going to that house. And what? Just to peep into that blinds are curtains. Through the curtains, I want to peep into that house and see what is inside it. Blind eyes of windows, or just listen to the frozen air. Frozen air is that air which has frozen. Frozen actually, it also symbolizes that it has frozen the memories, that nothing is flowing over there. That is the joy and the happiness which used to flow freely and the love used to flow freely in that house. Now everything is frozen, everything is trapped. जैसे कि वहीं के वहीं सब कुछ रुक गया हो, ठहर गया हो. So this is the frozen air. Or in wild despair, pick an armful of darkness to bring it here to lie behind my bedroom door like a brooding dog. And sometimes she feels that in wild despair, that she's so desperate and she's so feeling so anguished, then sometimes she feels that I should bring a handful of darkness from there, because now there is no happiness, there is no light, nothing. There's no ray of hope also that she can get love in that house, because the mother who gave her that unstinted love to her, she's no more. So she said that now what I can get from here is just an armful of darkness. एक बाहों में भर के, she can bring only darkness, to bring it here to lie behind my bedroom door. And she wants to keep that darkness, put that darkness behind the bedroom door like a brooding dog. Now, brooding dog over here is like a watchful dog. The dogs who are actually, they have the duty to protect their masters and to look after, they are watchful and they look after the house. So, this house which had many happy associations with it, they are no more. And so she feels that she should bring, there's no happiness in this house, and instead of that, she wants to bring that armful of darkness over there, from there, so she can put it behind her bedroom door. And why she wants to put the darkness behind the bedroom door? Because as we know, it's very explicit in her short stories and in her my story, her autobiography, and even through the poems, because she's a confessional poet and she makes it very explicit that she's not happy in her marriage. And then, so that's why she wants to keep the darkness in her room. It's like a watchful dog. You cannot believe, darling, can you, that I lived in such a house and was proud and loved. Now here she is making a contrast. Now she's addressing her husband. Darling, she's calling her husband. That can you believe that I lived in such a house? Now she belonged to a very rich, influential family or a royalty, and she said you can never ever imagine that she lived in such a beautiful house, and then she was also proud of that house, and on most of the things, all the top of the things is that she was loved in that house, and she's a person who craves love just because she did not get in a uh, marriage life or a wedlock. So she craved for love because the kind of love she wanted, the selfless love, the affectionate love that she received from her grandmother, she is not getting that kind of love, and she's just craving, she's hungering for such love. So she's saying that, darling, she's addressing the husband and she's saying that, darling, can you ever imagine that I lived in this such a house and I was such a proud person? I had pride in that house and I was loved in that house. I who have lost my way and beg now at strangers' doors to receive love, at least in small change. Now, here she is making a contrast that I now things have changed so much. This is a contrast that I used to get love, abundance of love from this house, from my grandmother. But the present situation, it was in the past, it was in her girlhood that she got love, and she was very proud of that fact. Now she's saying, but now things have changed. I who have lost my way, now she's saying that I have lost my way. I don't even know where I'm going. But what I need, where I go, I just need love. I crave for love. I hunger for love. And then now I have to beg love from the strangers. Now she's saying that I have nobody to look for or to get love from. Like when her grandmother was alive, she used to get that abundant love. But now she's saying, now I have to beg love at the stranger's doors to receive love, at least in small change. Now, what do you mean by small change? Over here, change does not mean badlav. Change over here means chutte paise. Like we say that, do you have change of 100 rupees or change of 500 rupees or change of 50 rupees? The change is chutte paise. Now she's saying that it was once upon a time she was flooded with love, with her grandmother's love. But now she has to beg love. अब उसको भीख सी मांगनी पड़ती है प्यार की. And sometimes, at least in small change, and sometimes I might receive love, and that too like a small change. थोड़ा सा छुट्टा, जैसे भिखारी को थोड़े से छुट्टे पैसे दे देते हैं अपन. So it was something like that. That when I begged for love, people gave me just small pieces, doled out a little bit of love. So she's saying over here, she's making a contrast with her past life as a girl and now her life as a wife or a mother, as a wedded woman. So she's saying that she is lacking that love which she used to get in her parental house or her ancestral house. Now, in this poem, actually, she recaptures her childhood memories, and she has also expressed her desolation, or you can say her loneliness and her sorrow in a very touching manner. Because when we read this poem, we feel that this poem is written by someone who is really sad, who is very feeling very discontented, feeling very lonely with her own life, and she is craving for the life which she lived as a girl. So I hope you have understood this poem, because the diction of this poem is very easy. There are no such difficult words in this poem, and this poem is composed in free verse. There is no, you can say, the proper rhyme scheme, and it is in a very conversational style. So this in the last of the lines there is a contrast, and in the beginning she is explaining the love, explaining the house where she got loved, where I received love. She is emphasizing of where I received love, and here he's in the end she's saying that now I have to beg at the stranger's doors to receive love. So in this way, she is expressing. She begins with the demand of love, or you can say the abundance of love. And here she's saying that she has lost all that love, and now she has to beg for that love. So this is how she actually begins and ends with the same thing. Begins with the abundance, and then ends with the paucity or the lack of love, which she is getting only in small change, that is, in small quantity. And she also compares her grandmother's love, that pure and selfless love, to the stranger's love, because strangers do not dole out love to her and they are very stingy with love. Whereas the grandmother, her love was pure and selfless. So, this is all for now. I hope you have understood this poem very well. And if you have any doubts, you can post questions on the WhatsApp group. I'll be posting notes also on this poem on the WhatsApp group. So, thank you for listening. Goodbye.